China made a huge mistake when it tried to hit the wrong US Navy ship. In the South China Sea, a Chinese warship thought it had an easy target, a slow-moving cargo ship. But what it didn't realize is that it was heading straight for the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower, a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier with more firepower than more countries. The Chinese warship, most likely a Type 55 destroyer, was cruising through the South China Sea searching for a target. It saw what appeared to be a vulnerable cargo ship in the distance, a perfect target for a potential attack. From its radar and intelligence, the Chinese vessel believed it was closing in on an easy mark, a slow-moving, unarmed merchant ship. However, the ship in this instance was far from an easy target. The USS Dwight D. Eisenhower, a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier, was anything but a sitting duck. At over 1,000 feet long and weighing 100,000 tons, the Eisenhower is the centerpiece of a carrier strike group. It's not just an aircraft carrier, but a mobile fortress capable of launching jets every 25 seconds. With nearly 5,000 personnel on board, the ship is packed with advanced radar systems, missiles, and defense mechanisms designed to protect it from threats like the one now headed its way. What the Chinese warship didn't realize was that the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower was part of a much larger, fully operational carrier strike group. The CSG included multiple destroyers, submarines, and aircraft, all prepared for any situation. The Chinese ship was about to make a huge mistake. It was heading straight for one of the most powerful military forces on the planet. As the Chinese ship approached, the Eisenhower's radar systems immediately picked up the incoming threat. The N-Spy-1 radar, part of the Aegis combat system, tracked the Chinese vessel as it closed in at high speed. The ship's combat information center instantly processed the data, and within seconds, the officer of the deck ordered the launch of an MH-60R Seahawk helicopter from the flight deck. The Seahawk is one of the Navy's most powerful tools for dealing with potential threats. Equipped with advanced radar systems and precision-guided missiles, the Seahawk can quickly identify and neutralize dangers from the air. In less than 2 minutes, the Seahawk was airborne and headed toward the Chinese warship. At the same time, 2 other ships from the carrier strike group, the USS Gravely and the USS Mason, began maneuvering into position. These guided missile destroyers were equipped with the Aegis combat system, which could track and target multiple threats simultaneously. The Aegis system, with its N-Spy-1 radar, ensured the Chinese ship was continuously monitored and contained. As the Chinese warship continued its approach, the Seahawk helicopter performed a series of low passes over the vessel, signaling its presence and making it clear that the situation was escalating. The Navy wasn't going to just sit back and wait, it was taking control of the situation. The Eisenhower maintained its course, while the Gravely and Mason moved into flanking positions, effectively boxing in the Chinese warship. The Seahawk helicopter didn't open fire. Instead, it made its presence known in a show of force. The helicopter flew low over the Chinese ship, displaying its weapon systems and sending a clear message: "We see you, and you've entered the wrong zone." At this point, the Chinese vessel had made a huge error. It was now surrounded on all sides by US Navy ships, all of which were more than capable of responding in force. The Chinese warship tried to make a course change, but its options were limited and it was already in a bit too deep. The Navy had the situation under control. The Seahawk performed one final low pass over the Chinese vessel, its M240 machine gun aimed directly at the warship. This wasn't an act of aggression, but a warning. The Chinese ship had pushed too far, and now the Navy was sending a clear signal: turn around or face the consequences. Realizing it had made a huge miscalculation, the Chinese warship began to retreat. The Eisenhower and the rest of the CSG didn't need to take any further action. The situation had been neutralized without firing a single shot. The Chinese ship had learned an important lesson: don't mess with the US Navy. Once the threat had been averted, the intelligence teams aboard the Eisenhower went into action. The Navy immediately began analyzing the encounter, looking for any clues that might indicate a broader threat. This wasn't just about stopping the ship, it was about gathering intelligence to prevent future threats. The Navy's intelligence teams began examining the Chinese ship's movements, analyzing intercepted communications, and scanning for any tech that might suggest it was part of a larger operation. Every detail was examined, from satellite communications to the Chinese vessel's radar emissions. While the US Navy didn't have to escalate the situation any further, it was already preparing for any potential future threats. Surveillance drones began flying overhead, scanning for unusual activity. The entire carrier strike group was already on high alert, making sure no further threats could slip through the cracks. China may have thought it could get away with challenging the Eisenhower, but it quickly learned that the US Navy's reach is vast and its response is swift. China learned the hard way that messing with the US Navy, especially the Eisenhower, is a mistake. With its advanced radar, fighter jets, and intelligence capabilities, the Navy proved that it's more than capable of defending its interest. In this case, the Chinese warship made a massive error, thinking it could target a slow-moving cargo ship. What it found instead was a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier surrounded by a fleet of highly trained sailors and cutting-edge weapon systems. Next time anybody considers challenging the US Navy, they should remember what happened here. The Eisenhower wasn't just a target, it was a force to be reckoned with, and it's a force that China won't soon forget.